What's going on, everybody? It's Justin Gazaba, and this is Living and Moving to Seattle, Washington. And in this video, we're giving you a Seattle real estate market update. And guys, you got to stay to the end. There is a ton of details and information here. I want to go over market conditions, inflation, interest rates, what's happening here in Seattle. If you're thinking about making a move to the area, we are real estate agents here in the Seattle metro area. We're helping people make this move all the time. So we want to make it really convenient and really easy for you to make that move no matter where you're coming from. If you're moving from down south, Olympia, Tacoma, Seattle, anywhere in the neighborhood, in the Seattle metro area, reach out to us. If you're coming from further away, California, New York, Florida, Texas, reach out to us as well. Like I said, we want to make it really convenient and easy, and we got your back when making a move, so we'll take great care of you. Reach out, it's no cost, no obligation. Shoot a text, send me an email, whatever you got to do to get in touch. If you don't reach out, we can't help you. So in this video, like I said, I want to jump straight away into, there's no sizzle, no messing around. We're just jumping into numbers because I think that there is a lot of confusion about what is happening in the marketplace. And so truly, this reminds me, this market, now we're recording this, it's mid-June, it's June 14th when this is getting recorded, and it'll come out a few days later, but this really reminds me of 2018. And in 2018, if you remember, there was a bump in interest rates, and we saw a little bit of a slowdown. So I'm going to jump into that here in a minute, but it really reminds me of that. There also was a small sense of what happened early in the pandemic, early in the market when things started to slow down and shut down. There was a little bit of hysteria in the market. And what happened was, if you recall, some people chose to pump the brakes on making a move, and other people moved forward with it. And one of the things that I found that was really interesting is during that time, the folks that decided to move forward and said, hey, we still making a move is still the right thing for us. It still fits our lifestyle, the life that we want to live. It makes sense for our family to get into something different and make that transition. Those people did pretty well. And those two things kind of remind me of this quote that's been attributed to Warren Buffett, right? When people are greedy, you should be afraid. When people are afraid, start thinking about being greedy. So obviously, everybody's situation is going to be different. Job offers are going to be different. The way companies act and behave is going to be a little bit different. So if you're thinking about making a move out here and if you're not sure if buying a home in the Seattle market is the right thing to do, you'd be surprised at how many people come out here with the thinking that they should rent first, and maybe they spend 3 months in their their home as they kind of get to know the Seattle area market a little bit. And even though they were planning on renting for a year, they find themselves, hey, you know what, the Seattle market performs and behaves a little bit different than the national market. So maybe I will jump into that market and get myself a place straight away. So give yourself a little, grace, mercy, and forgiveness if you find yourself in that situation. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, obviously, but that happens more than you think. The reason I want to bring that up, is because Seattle, being a tech hub that it is and an industry hub that it is, it tends to be a little bit more resilient in the way that it performs around recessions. And so, my screen back on here with my notes. And so just think about that when you come out this way. There's a reason that these companies are hiring. There's a reason that Microsoft increased its starting salary. There's a reason that Amazon increased its starting salary. And you can look at those things here. So a couple of things. I got a bunch of notes and a bunch of screens, and I'm going to try to do my best to stay on track for you. But I thought what I would start out with is kind of the general report that's come out that people are talking about. And one of the things that stood out to me about the market report for June, given what's happened over the course of May, we try to kind of infer and make these assumptions and these guesses about what's happening in the trenches of real estate, and we see it day to day when we are working with clients. And so what I would point out to you is that when you're looking at trends in the day-to-day real estate in the trenches, you have to separate your lead indicators from your lag indicators. Now, when a seller goes to price their home, more often than not, in a stable market, we'll define that. A stable market is around 6 months of inventory. We're going to get into that in a minute. But they'll look at lag indicators of sold homes in their area. And you want to make that as apples to apples as possible. So if you're in a community that's a cul-de-sacs and the homes are generally the same, fit finish level is generally the same, square footage is the same, right? You're going to try to get as apples to apples as you can. And if your neighbor sold 2 weeks ago for $750,000, and the neighbor before that 6 months ago sold for $700,000, right? You can see a trend in those lag indicators of prices moving, so long as those homes are actually equivalent, right? Fit and finish level matters so much, condition matters so much in that regard. Now, in a different market where things are moving a little bit slower, right? You're going to look at those lead indicators, days on market. How long did it take them to sell? Are they still active? Are they our competition? So when people go to list their home, they tend to look at the sold data. And you have to consider what was interest rates at that time, what was days on market at that time, what were the market conditions at the time. And so as things ebb and flow, as the real estate market does, because you can't really day trade real estate. This is a 3, 5, 7, 15 year commitment that really makes a real estate purchase worthwhile. And so lagging indicators are going to be your pendings, pending inspection, and your solds, and your leading indicators are going to be actives, days on market, and you'll have to infer from that what's happening in the market. So any seller, potential seller that's watching this video, appreciate you spending some time with me. The leading indicator that you're going to be watching for is in and around your neighborhood. Are there any homes like yours that are currently listed, and how long have they been on the market? What's the leading indicator show you, right? We always used to say, if you want to get what they got, you have to do what they did. And so we have to be cognizant of what's actually happening in the trenches. And the reason I bring that up is because it has been a cool breeze in the real estate market where we are seeing more inventory just in the last little while. Because those interest rates have come up, a lot of folks have stepped back from the market to rethink what they can afford and if they can still look in the same zip code that they were looking in. The reason I bring that up is because multiple offers in day 0, 1, 2, 3 in the first week has really, really cooled off. We have gone from about 6 to 7 days of inventory to just under a month. So I think we're at 0.09 right now. So not quite a month of inventory. And what that means is that 90% of the homes are selling within the first 30 days. Now guys, if you're watching this video and you're used to the last 2 years where we had extremely unrealistically low interest rates, where today we have historically low interest rates still, but you got used to seeing homes sell within a week, and that is not normal. It's just been the way it's been in this little moment in time. This little last 2 years has been an interesting time for a lot of folks, given the coronavirus pandemic and the extremely low interest rates and supply chain issues. It's just been a very unique moment in time, but that's all it is. It is far from normal. So as we see a little bit of an increase in inventory and a little bit of an increase of inventory due to longer days on market, as that stacks up, we're getting into territory that is more normal. And that's why I said this really, truly reminds me of 2018, because that's when we saw a little bump from the Fed, and that translated into higher mortgage rates, because we can get into it, but the Fed rate and the mortgage rate are not the same thing, but they do impact the Fed rate does impact lending. So, but it's not a direct correlation. There's a lot that goes into it, but just know that when you hear the federal funds rate, when they're raising interest rates, it doesn't necessarily mean that the mortgage rate is going to go up. But in these last instances, it certainly has. So in 2018, we saw a bump in inventory, months of inventory. And, if we just look at, let me look down, I'll look at my notes here super quick. If I go to 2018 here, we went from, in 2017, an average of 1 month of inventory, was about where we're at right now. We bumped up in 2018 to all of a sudden 2.9 months, almost 3 months of inventory. Okay, and then since then it's declined again. So the reason I bring that up is because this cool breeze is an opportunity, right? For a lot of folks, they're concerned about, black swan events and is the market truly crashing? What's happening? What's going on? The media's job is to sell advertising for their company, so they come up with really great headlines, and frankly, they're not in the trenches every day, and they're not your advisor when it comes to your finances. They're selling advertising. So from the boots on the ground in the trenches, it's our job to look at the numbers, see how we can make sense of it, how we can continue to give good advice throughout the process, and help our folks make sound financial decisions. That's what we want to do. So that's why I wanted to give you this market update, this video, show you what's going on. And I think that the best way to understand the months of inventory, like we talked about before, is that you have to know that what they consider a stable market is about 6 months of inventory. 6 months of inventory. And right now, I just let you know that we're just almost to a month. And for a lot of folks, going from a week to a month feels like the sky is falling. And what you're seeing in the marketplace and what you're seeing from the media is that sentiment being compounded. Now, if you think about the average seller over the last 2 years, they've just gotten very, very comfortable with the idea that a home should sell within a week, no problems at all. And if you think about the mind of a buyer got very used to having to compete in order to get a home, to go up against multiple offers. Well, now as we've seen that inventory increase, nice homes are still selling with multiple offers. What we have found is that the most aggressive home buyers are looking for move-in ready homes so that they can move in and continue to live their life. And so the ones that are finished, we do that as a concierge program. We help people come in, we help paint, check out, update the carpet, cabinets if we need to. We want to make sense of those numbers. But absolutely, those homes sell fastest, right? So a home that needs a little bit of attention, a little bit of sweat equity, tends to sit a little bit. But right now, like I said, in this moment in time, we are seeing about a month of inventory. 90% of homes are selling within the first 30 days they come to market. Now, granted, in the past, you could, come on the market with a reaching for the sky number in your list price, and maybe even still, because interest rates are so low, the cost of borrowing was so low, even still accelerate up over that or escalate up over that initial listing price. And when I consult buyers, I always let them know that the listing price is really not a good indication of value, because you don't know if they have listed it low to generate more offers, or you don't know if they've listed it high because they're reaching for the sky. So we have to do our own diligence to try to justify the price, and hopefully the person representing that seller had done some analyses as well, and and that's how they arrived at that price. But that's not always the case. Sometimes we see prices that just don't make sense because they're either extremely low or extremely high, and then we've got to build a strategy around that, right? So how do we get the buyer the property that they want most for the right price and with the least amount of hassle? So thinking about that market time. Now we know that the normal market time is 6 months of market time. We haven't seen that in ages. We know that the sellers and buyers got used to competition happening and home selling within a week, and now we're at a month. And so that's created some concern in the market. But we are nowhere near, at this point, a place where there should be cause for concern that the '08 crisis, the financial crisis that caused a housing crisis, is on its way. And there's a tremendous amount of reason for that. One of them being is that we're about 5 million homes short in inventory available from builders over the last decade. So we just don't see builders being able to build enough homes to satisfy the demand that's out there for the millennials and Generation Z that's looking to buy homes, and for the boomers that are looking to downsize. There just hasn't been enough building. Most of the building that's taken place has happened in the South. There hasn't been that same kind of building up here in the Northwest. So that's kind of what we're working with insofar as market conditions. Now, part of that again is because interest rates have come up, and that has slowed buyers down. So now we see a little bit of market time with some of the homes that are on market, but we're still under a month of inventory. Now, I want to share with you some numbers going back to the crises, all the way back to the crises, because I think this is going to help you frame what this market really looks like. And so we're going to go all the way back to 2007, 2008. So 2007, 2008. Remember, months of inventory. And I want to define this for you just quickly. So what that means is that if today we just put a pin in it and no one else was allowed to sell their house, so we only had the inventory that was available that you see online. That's it. We could only these houses. How long would it take to sell all those houses? So right now it's about a month, right? So if no new homes came to market, nobody else is allowed to bring their home to market, no for sale by owners, nothing listed on the MLS, no one's allowed to bring their home to market. If no new homes came to market, then it would take we're at 0.08 months. So almost a month to sell all the houses, and then there would be nothing else available. Now, obviously, that's not how things work. People bring their home to market all the time. It just shows the demand against the available supply, right? So that's what that shows. So I want to, with that in mind, a stable market again is around 6 months. Right now we're under a month. Now let's look at what happened in '07. In '07, there was almost a year's worth of inventory. That means that if you put your home on the market in '07, it would take a year to sell. 11 months. Take 11 months to sell. We are nowhere near that. That's 11 times longer than where we're at. In '08, 10 months. Okay? In '09, it would have taken 6 months. So we see a significant jump in or shortening in market time, and that's right around. They really say that the recovery was in 2011, but we really start to see it in the housing market. You can see it in '09. In 2010, we're at 7 months. So that from 2009 to 2010, the average is 6 to 7 months. And then we get to 2010, 5.5 months, 2011, 3 months, 2012, 2 months, 2013, 2 months, 2014, 2 months, 2015, we get a month and a half, 2016, a month and a third, a month and a half, 1.5 months, 1.3 months, 2017, we're at 1 month of inventory. So that's where we're at today. Now, I mentioned this earlier, that this reminds me of 2018. In 2018, we shot up to about 2.9 months of inventory, almost 3 months of inventory because of interest rates. Now, did prices come down during that time? No. We still saw prices continue to go up, even though at that point, interest rates were very similar to where we are now, and months of inventory had increased. So if I was going to predict the future, if I was going to have my crystal ball out, shake my magic 8-ball, I would say we're probably headed towards that. But I know from history, I can look at history and say, well, gosh, even in 2018, prices still went up. Even in 2018, it was still hard to, it was still competitive. Nice houses still sold quickly, right? We're just talking about the averages, okay? And then in 2018, we see that number drop to 1.7, 2019, 1.7, and then we get into the pandemic, where we saw inventory fall significantly as people paused to wait to see what happened. And then we saw interest rates fall because the Fed was working to keep things, to grease the skids and keep things going. And then here we are today. So that is just a synopsis of averages, average market times for that. You can kind of see at the worst of it in King County, there was 11 months of inventory, right? Then we get to 6 months very quickly, and then we shrink all the way down to where we are now. And again, like I said, in 2018, we saw 2.9 months of inventory. So, I would anticipate that maybe something like that happens again. Really just depends on how the Fed performs, what happens to mortgage rates, and what buyers and sellers decide to do. But again, prices didn't fall. It's interesting to see this reaction now, and I think that it's because of the headwinds of a recession. But folks, you got to know, a recession is just when GDP is a little bit lower 2 quarters in a row. Really has little to nothing to do with how you perform on your day-to-day, in your day-to-day life, in your day-to-day business. So there's a lot of folks that look at that a little bit differently, and those headwinds. But honestly, if you're looking for a place that has been a safe place for finances to park your money, this is probably it. And so I want to get to a quote here. Probably gonna have to pause this video and come back because I want to look it up. Okay, so think about this. Real estate really is the belle of the ball. It is and has been fairly stable, or a truly stable investment over time. You can't think about real estate like you do your stocks. It's a different asset class, and you certainly do not day trade real estate. It's a 3, 5, 7, 15, 20-year investment, right? And if you think about, I've put out some information before about how if you buy a place and then get into it and you stay there for a couple of years and you keep it and buy your next place, keep it and buy your next place, keep it and buy your next place, it really is a substantial way to build wealth over time. So here's where we're at today. Bitcoin is down almost 50% year over year, 48.79%. The NASDAQ is off over 25%. I believe the S&P is now in bear market territory, down from its high, down 20%. But real estate prices are up 5% nationally year to date. So think about this. Think about that in Seattle, the average appreciation is around 5.8% annually in Seattle. The national average for real estate appreciation is 4.4% nationally, average over 20-year span. If you even consider that real estate increasing at a value of 3% annually, you're looking at leveraging your, if you think about it as an asset, you can't put 10 or 20% down on Apple stock or Amazon stock and be able to control that entire asset. But with real estate, you do. And the thing about it is that when you buy a home, when you buy even an investment property, that appreciation is on the full amount of the value, not the amount you put down. So it is a pretty incredible thing to think about. And that's why they say that people who own homes are 45% or 45 times more wealthy than folks that don't. So let's get back to it. So it's still the most secure, the most stable investment, and prices are projected to increase 18 to 20% cumulatively over the next 3 years. So not year over year, but cumulatively. You get 3% now, and then you take that 3%, right? It builds up to almost 18 to 20% over time. So that's something to think about. And then I wanted to share, and I teased it in the beginning, I wanted you guys to think about and share with you a little bit about how, and I've gone over this a few times with a few of my clients and a few of my investors, and I want to tease these numbers out here too, because like we said, what was it? 6% appreciation, national average 4.4, and let's just consider 3%. So let's just consider 3%. Let's say, I think right now median rent in Seattle is about $3,200 a month. So $3,200 a month. let's say that you're going to live in that place for the next 3 years. So we're going to times that by 12. That's 38,000, almost 40,000 a year. Okay, so if you live there for 3 years, that's 115,000 that you've just given away. Okay, so let's say that for the same cost, that 3,200 a month, you're able to buy a place that costs 850. So at 850, and let's say it appreciates at only 3% a year, a slow, very slow, consistent 3%, plus 3%, that's 25,000 a year. Let's do that for 3 years, times 3. So that's 25,500 a year. Let's do that for 3 years, plus, let's see, times 3. So that's $76,000 and 50. Let me write that down. 76,500. Okay, and we said that 3,200 a month times 12, 38,400 a year, and let's say that's a 3-year times 3. So we're even. That's 115. So if you just look at it at first glance, you think, man, I just spent $115,000. None of that money is mine. It's all gone. It's all gone away. There's nothing I can do about that. And it all went to the landlord to pay them for the asset, and I don't have that. But the fact of the matter is you might be able to justify that and think, oh, you know, I'm okay with that. But here's the thing: is you also could have purchased a place at $850. And you could have also gotten the appreciation, that 3% appreciation, plus paying down your loan, but just that appreciation alone, but you didn't. So the opportunity cost was $76,000 that you left behind. So we have to add that in, $76,500. That's almost $200,000 over the course of 2 years for just living in a home. So that's something to think about when you look at, hey, am I doing the right thing? Should I wait? Consider that a piece of that puzzle to consider, to think about, to mull over, that the opportunity cost of not owning is greater, adds a greater complexity, and makes your rent more expensive than you really think it is. Your rent is costing you a tremendous amount of money. So if you're thinking about it that way, you know, let me know what you think of that math. That's how I looked at it. You know, gosh, I did a video or I wrote a post or something, and we had paid $1,500 a month, or just under $1,500 a month. I'll do it again. So 15. Rent started a lot lower. We were trying to save money, so we rented this tiny little place. Best thing that we could find, best value we could find. Would have never bought this 1-bedroom. You know, you can't compare apples to apples. We rented so much smaller so we could save money, right? But let's just say it was less than, I think it started out at 13, and over the course of the time that we were there, it went to $1,500 a month. So $1,500 a month times 12, that's $18,000 a year. And guys, we lived there for 7 years. 7 years as we were trying to save. And so that's $126,000 that's gone. I don't get that money. That money is somebody else's now. And frankly, you know, I would never have bought that place. I rented it to save money, right? So that was how that teased out. So as we wrap up this market update video, here's what we covered. The rising interest rates have impacted buyers, where buyers are looking at different zip codes now because it's taken money out of their pocket to purchase. Right? That's a thing. We have longer market times now, which actually give you more choices. So even though maybe you're not getting in your top first choice neighborhood, you have more homes to choose from, which is great. The other thing that we talked about was long market times and that black swan event. Right? We are nowhere near that. We don't see it happening because there just isn't enough homes on the market to choose from. Even though we feel like in the moment there is a lot more homes, and there is. Over the course of the month, we have seen, you know, more homes come to market and stay around longer. But guys, we are still at under a month of inventory. We may see that number increase as the Fed raises rates and interest rates come up, but there still is strong demand for housing. Nice homes tend to sell quickly, and we still see that every single day. So I hope you guys appreciate that market video, market update. I wanted to put that out and get it out to you quickly. Hopefully the sound comes through well and you can hear everything, and I really appreciate it. Reach out to us. We're helping people make the move every day. We'll help you go over the numbers and help you make sense of it and get you into something that you love. So reach out to us, and we're always glad to connect. We'll see you in the next video. Talk to you.